These are the Christmas books I plan to read, and these are the Christmas books that I actually read. So let's get to some ranking and reviewing. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. As you know, I've been reading a bunch of Christmas books. I did my last in-depth review last week, so this week I just want to do a quick review of all of the books that I've read and rank them on a 5-star rating system. So I want to start with the book that I enjoyed the least and then work my way up to the one that I liked the most. So if you've watched my other videos about these books, you can probably guess that I'm going to start with When Christmas Comes by Andrew Klavan. This book is a mystery, y'all. It starts off with the murder of a librarian in a small town, and our main character, Cameron Blake, is called in to help solve the mystery of her murder. It's an interesting story. It's well written, but I didn't find myself getting involved with the characters. The details that were shared weren't details that I was looking for, and what I wanted to know about the characters, we just weren't told. So I think it just wasn't my style of book and my style of writing. So I didn't care about the characters. I didn't really care about the story. As I mentioned before, I probably wouldn't have finished it had I not planned to review it. I'm glad that I finished it because the whole story comes together in the end. And I enjoy the story much more now knowing how it ends. But it's come to my attention recently that there's a sequel. I won't be reading the sequel because I just don't care about the characters. So based on my lack of caring about the characters, that I have not thought a single bit about any of them since I finished reading the book, and the fact that I won't read the sequel, I'm going to give this book just a flat 3 stars. I did find it interesting and I finished it, so I don't think it deserves anything less than a 3, but I just don't care about it, so I don't think it's anything more than a 3-star read. My next book in ascending order is Falling Stars by Fern. This is a sweet romance with some interesting twists, but not a lot of spice. And by spice, I don't mean like graphic sex scene spice. I mean spice like interesting, dramatic twists spice. They just aren't really present in this book. It does have lots of Christmas imagery. There's snow, ski slopes, a beautiful ski lodge, hot chocolate, decorating, Christmas traditions, all the Christmas things. And it comes across beautifully. You feel like you're spending time in this scenic lodge in Colorado. Our main character, Emily, works at this lodge, which is her family-owned ski resort, and her best friend, Kylie, works there as well. Emily is hired to teach a famous movie star to ski a dangerous slope at the lodge. Well, we find out that her best friend Kylie has a crush on this movie star, and of course, drama ensues. There are secrets, overlapping secrets. Emily has secrets, Kylie has secrets, Emily's family has secrets, the movie star has secrets. These secrets kind of overlap and intertwine, but some of the secrets, I think, could have been taken further and made the story more interesting. But all in all, it's a fun, happy, sort of Christmassy romance. Like When Christmas Comes, I give this one a 3. I do care a bit more about these characters, but I don't really care what happens to them after this story. I didn't go looking for a sequel, and if there were a sequel, I don't think I would read it. So to me, that's a 3-star read. My next book is Jingle All the Way by Debbie Macomber, and this book I give 3.5 stars. This is the one about the successful businesswoman who ends up taking sort of a forced month-long vacation, intending to go on a luxury cruise, but she ends up on a cruise down the Amazon. It's sort of a hokey premise, but it ends up being an interesting, fun little romance. It combines adventure, travel. We get some interesting and entertaining scenes on the Amazon. Everly is forever getting herself into these just goofy, calamitous situations. They're not always overly believable, but they are entertaining. My main complaint about this book is that, as you can see from the cover and the title, Jingle All the Way, it's marketed as a Christmas romance or a Christmas story, and it's just not. It's super light on the Christmas. Christmas doesn't come into the story until the very end when Everly goes home to her family's for Christmas, which again is very entertaining. It's a nice, wholesome family Christmas. We get some great family interaction, family relationships develop. All that's great in a Christmas story, but I would say maybe 1/10 of the book has some Christmas sort of sprinkled into it. So if they just removed the Christmas part of this and made it just a comedy travel adventure book, it would be a solid 4, if not higher, for me. but I feel like they slapped the Christmas bit on at the end to be able to market it as a Christmas book, and it just didn't work for me. So Jingle All the Way to me is a 3.5-star read. In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren is the next book on my list. This is also a 3.5-star read for me. This one has all of the holiday tropes. It's very Christmassy, it's snowy. We're in a cabin in the mountains with our main character, May, celebrating Christmas the way she does every year with her parents and her parents' college friends. So we have plenty of Christmas. We also have a Groundhog Day-esque time loop aspect to this story as May makes a wish and gets sucked back in time to repeat the same few days over and over again. And that's pretty interesting. But the author abandons that storyline sort of abruptly and takes us on this pure sort of, I shouldn't love you, but I love you. I can't have you, but I want to have you romance, which on its own would be a fine story. But I feel like this book is telling two stories and they're disjointed because we jump from one story into the other and that time loop story is just never wrapped up. So if In a Holidaze were a true time loop story where we follow the time loop throughout the story until it gets solved at the end, or if it were just a romance where we just jump straight into the romance and follow the romance through the story, either one of those would be fine. But In a Holidaze tries to do both, and to me it does both kind of sloppily. So I give In a Holidaze 3.5 stars. My next read is Skipping Christmas, which I give a solid 4 stars. This is the book on which the movie Christmas with the Cranks is loosely based, and it's about Luther and Nora Crank, who are spending their first Christmas without their daughter, who has gone off to join the Peace Corps. So Luther convinces his wife, or decides for his wife, that instead of spending all of this money on Christmas, on the decorations and the gifts and the donations and the parties and all the things, that they are going to spend that money on a cruise instead. So as a surprise for his wife, Luther books them a cruise over Christmas. And the story develops as we watch Luther and Nora work their way through the time leading up to Christmas as they avoid and abandon the traditions that they've always done. It's interesting to watch the two of them as they work their way through this season without the sort of guideposts of traditions that they normally have. And it's interesting to watch how other people react to them as they don't do their normal traditions. This is a fun, quick little read that makes some interesting statements about Christmas and holidays in general, really, and traditions and what we do and why we do them. I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. My next 4-star read is The Christmas Wedding Guest by Susan Mallery. Y'all, I did not expect this to be a 4-star read. I didn't expect to like this book nearly as much as I did. This is another fun Christmassy romance with lots of small town charm. It's got the perfect small town, charming small town people. It's got the setting, the decorations, the snow. It's even got charming small town pets. Our main characters are sisters Dina and Reggie, both of whom are exceptionally unlucky in love, sort of in their own way, but both very unlucky in love. Until now. This is sort of a 2-for-1 romance as we follow both sisters into I shouldn't love you but I do romances. Sister Dina has come home to her childhood home to help with the planning of her parents' vow renewal ceremony. And that's a fun setup for all kinds of gags and tropes. Now, parts of this book are pretty predictable, and there are parts that when they happen, you kind of go, how did you not see that coming? But all in all, it's a fun, romantic Christmas read. I found myself caring about the characters. I was sort of concerned with what they were doing. And y'all, I actually shed a tear. So this is a solid 4-star Christmas read for me. I have one more 4-star Christmas read, and it's Fannie Flagg's A Redbird Christmas. Y'all, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love Fannie Flagg and I love this book. Fannie Flagg isn't afraid to use tropes, but she uses them well. In A Redbird Christmas, she transports us to the small, sleepy town of Lost River, Alabama, where we experience life through the eyes of the locals, and y'all, it is just so charming. Our main character is Oswald Campbell, a Chicago native who's forced to move to warmer climates because of his weather. Well, he ends up in small town Alabama, and frankly, it's the best thing that could have happened to him. We meet the people of Lost River through Oswald and watch as he learns to care for them and to let them care for him. There's this little lost soul in town in the form of this little girl who needs everyone's help, and everyone comes together to help her. Y'all, it's a charming story of family and friendship and the magic of Christmas, and y'all, I'm telling you, it'll have you believing whether you want to or not. Y'all, I'm kicking up my stars to 4.5 with Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogle. Y'all, I loved this book. This is a fun romance with all the Christmas feels, but with a twist. Our main character, Betty, is a formerly successful influencer who's now just faking it. She accidentally conjures the holiday spirit in human form, and he becomes her constant sidekick in spite of her protestations. Betty has to spend the holidays with her uber-successful family at the home of her movie star grandmother, and of course Hall, short for holiday spirit, accompanies her, and y'all, it's amazing. This book is full of unlikable characters, and you will love them. It's fantastic, and I give it a 4.5 stars. The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews is my next 4.5 star read. And y'all, this is another fun, charming Christmas read. It has a small town Christmas setting with lots of small town tropes. It's got the friendly people, the tight-knit community, the businesses that work together around the square. Of course, we have the snow and the decorating and all of those things. Our main character, Ivy, moves from Atlanta to this small town in North Carolina where she's bought a broken down farmhouse sight unseen. She found it on the internet, knew that it was the house for her, and just bought it. So we get all of the comedy and drama that comes from this single woman buying a house by herself, sight unseen. But there's more. The sellers left all of their stuff in the house, and amongst their belongings, Ivy finds this old Santa suit, and in the pocket of the suit, she finds a letter from a little girl. Well, Ivy becomes obsessed with this letter. She just can't stop thinking about it, so she sets out to find out what she can about the little girl, her family, and what happened to her. Well, because the story is set in a small town, of course, everybody knows everybody, and she's able to ask questions and sort of follow a trail of breadcrumbs that leads her to some answers. This is a charming story with some predictable twists, some unpredictable twists, and honestly, some twists that are a bit much. I enjoyed this book. I like the author, Mary Kay Andrews. I found myself really caring about the characters, even though parts of the story are fairly unbelievable. I really did like it. It's a quick read. It's Christmassy and it's happy, so I give it 4.5 stars. I have one more 4.5 star read for you, and it's The 12 Topsy-Turvy Very Messy Days of Christmas by James Patterson and Tad Safran. Y'all, this story is moving, it's sappy, and it's kind of a quick read. It's different from some of the others in that really the only believable things about this story are the characters and the setting. Our main characters are Will and Ella Sullivan, who lost their mom 5 years ago on Christmas, and their dad Henry, who just can't bring himself to move on. The story is about how Will, Ella, and Henry have to work together through these 12 topsy-turvy, very messy days of Christmas to survive and to come back together as a family. What I loved about this story is that the things that happen to them aren't believable, but their reactions are very believable. They're very raw. Their emotions are very real, and the healing and growth that you see them go through is just heartwarming. Y'all, this is a great book. It's a little bit longer, but it is a quick read. You'll find yourself caring about and rooting for these characters, and it is a solid 4.5 stars. I'm at a bit of a quandary over my next two books. I gave them both 4 3/4 stars, but I have to do one before the other, and they're really not equals, and it breaks my heart a teeny tiny bit to move my formerly favorite Christmas book to the penultimate position on this list because, y'all, I have a new ultimate favorite Christmas book. So my penultimate favorite, which is still a solid 4 3/4 star book, is The Stupidest Angel, a heartwarming tale of Christmas terror by Christopher Moore. This is a fun Christmas story. It's about how Christmas goes very far awry in a small town in California when a little boy makes a wish. A stupid angel shows up and grants that wish. The local constable smokes too much pot. A bunch of zombies come to life to ruin the town's lonesome Christmas party. And a warrior babe, brandishing a broadsword, has to show up to save the day. Y'all, if you've read any Christopher Moore, none of this is surprising. And if you haven't, The Stupidest Angel, a heartwarming tale of Christmas terror, is a great place to start. All right, my final and apparently my favorite Christmas story for the year is The Afterlife of Holly Chase. This probably says a lot more about me than it does about any of the books that I've reviewed, but y'all, I've come to realize I think that my favorite characters are the unlikable ones, because the main character in this book, Holly Chase, is supremely unlikable. Like, she's so unlikable that you can't help liking her. Like those ugly dogs that are so ugly that they're cute. Holly Chase is so unlikable that she's kind of lovable. She's the daughter of very successful Hollywood types, and she hits all of those personality tropes that we expect in those kids of the Hollywood royalty. She's self-centered, obsessed with wealth and status. She's horrible to people that she thinks are below her, and she is selfish beyond belief. The story is a retelling of the classic A Christmas Carol, so it starts with Holly being visited by 3 ghosts and being given the chance to change her wicked ways. Well, of course, she doesn't buy into any of it, refuses to change her ways, and she dies. Well, next thing we know, it's 5 years later, and Holly is working for Project Scrooge, which is the company that puts on these Scroogings every year. We watch Holly as she works with the Project Scrooge team to investigate the person who is set to be the next year's Scrooge. And as she learns about this person, she learns a lot about herself, and we start to see her character as more human and flawed as the project develops. Y'all, I'm telling you, by the end of the book, you will find yourselves loving Holly and rooting for her in spite of yourselves. Now, this one doesn't have zombies and stupid angels like The Stupidest Angel does, but it has Scrooges and ghosts, so I guess that's just as good. So The Afterlife of Holly Chase is my ultimate recommendation for Christmas books for this year. Y'all, I can't believe it. That's it for my Christmas reads. Next week, I'll unveil my winter-themed TBR, so if you have any wintry-themed books to recommend, drop them in the comments. I'd love to add them to my TBR. Y'all, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you haven't already done so, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I upload new food and fitness videos every Monday with some book videos sprinkled in between. See ya on the next one.